Was I wrong for putting a camera in my room to prove my mom was going through my things? I'm 19 and still living at home with my mom. Lately we've been arguing a lot, mostly about the same issue. I think she's been going into my room when I'm not there, and she keeps denying it. It started with small things. I'd leave for work and close my bedroom door completely, but when I came back it would be open. At first I thought maybe I just forgot, but then it kept happening. On top of that, I started noticing things being moved around or missing entirely. After a while, I was sure it wasn't just me being forgetful. Every time I asked her, she said she hadn't gone in my room. But it was happening multiple times a week, so I stopped believing that explanation. Eventually, I decided to get proof. I bought a small camera and set it up in my room. Before leaving for work, I made sure it was working and shut my door like usual. While I was at work, I got a motion alert and checked the footage. It showed my mom going through my room, opening drawers, looking through my closet and desk, and even taking some items and tossing them out into the hallway. I saved the video and planned to confront her when I got home. When I got back, I asked her again if she had been in my room. She said no, just like always. That's when I showed her the video. Instead of apologizing, she got extremely angry. She yelled at me for putting a camera in her house without permission. I asked why she was going through my things, and she said she has the right to because she's my mother. Then she started questioning things she had found in my room, and I told her that my personal belongings weren't her business. After that, I went to my room to cool off. Not long after, I started getting messages from other family members who had apparently heard her side. Almost all of them were telling me I was wrong for installing the camera and acting like I crossed a line. The only person who agreed with me was my dad, but he doesn't live with us anymore and can't really step in. I feel like I just wanted privacy and proof that I wasn't imagining things, but now everyone's acting like I'm the one who did something extreme. Was I wrong for setting up the camera to catch what was happening? Was I wrong for using a baby name I had already planned, even though my sister used a similar one first? My sister and I were both pregnant at the same time last year. I was expecting my first child, a girl, and she told everyone she was having a boy. What she didn't share at the time was that she was actually expecting twins and wanted to keep the part a surprise. While I was pregnant, I talked openly about the name I planned to use for my daughter. I wanted to honor both our mom and my partner's mom by combining the names, and I loved the idea of using a nickname that came from that. I mentioned this to my sister more than once, and she knew it was the name I intended to go with. She, on the other hand, said she and her partner were keeping their baby name a secret until the birth. A month before I gave birth, she had her babies and surprised everyone by announcing twins. She chose names that were clearly inspired by our mom's name, just split into 2 parts for each child. I thought it was a sweet idea and didn't think much of it beyond that. When my daughter was born, I went ahead and used the name I had been planning the entire time. It meant a lot to me, and I had already shared it, prepared for it, and even had personalized items made. Since then, my sister has been upset. She keeps bringing up how similar the names are between all 3 kids and says it's confusing. She also makes a point of telling people that her children were born first, as if it settles the issue. From my perspective, I didn't take anything from her. I had been clear about my choice well before the babies were born, and she chose not to share her plans. If I had known in advance, I probably would have reconsidered to avoid overlap, but I wasn't given that chance. Now I'm considering whether I should rearrange my daughter's name just to reduce tension, but it feels like giving in when I don't think I did anything wrong. I'm honestly torn between wanting to keep the peace and feeling like I shouldn't have to change something that was already decided long before. Was I in the wrong for sticking with the name I chose? Am I wrong for asking my husband to stop letting his mother be in our home alone after she took something of mine? I'm a 34-year-old woman married to my husband 36, and we have 2 young kids together. For years now, his mother has had a habit of crossing boundaries in our home, especially when I'm not around. She'll go through things that aren't ours, opening my mail or packages, reorganizing areas like the garage, and even moving around my personal items like skincare, makeup, and kitchen tools. It's always done casually, like it's no big deal, but it's never something I've been comfortable with. My own family has never behaved that way in our home. Last winter, my husband gave her some money and asked her to take our kids shopping so they could pick out gifts for us. My youngest chose a dish drying rack from me with her help. While she guided him, it was paid for by my husband and given to me as a gift from my child, which made it meaningful to me. A few weeks ago, she came over to watch the kids while I was working and my husband was out. When I got home, I noticed things in the pantry had been rearranged, which wasn't unusual for her, but then I realized the drying rack was gone. I had seen it earlier the same day, so I knew it hadn't just been misplaced. I asked my kids and my husband if they had moved it, and no one had. Based on her past behavior, I had a strong feeling she took it. When my husband texted her to ask, she admitted it right away. Her reasoning was that we weren't using it enough, so she decided to take it back with her. That really upset me. To me, it felt like she made a decision about something in my home that wasn't hers to decide, and just removed it like it belonged to her. It wasn't just about the item, it was the pattern of behavior and the lack of respect for boundaries. My husband doesn't see it as a big issue and thinks I should just move on. But I told him I'm no longer comfortable with her being in our house alone. I don't trust that she won't continue going through or taking things, and I feel like that's a reasonable boundary to set. Now he thinks I'm overreacting and making things more serious than they need to be. I don't see it that way, but I'm wondering if I'm being too rigid. Am I in the wrong here? Was I wrong for reserving a public court when everyone else just lines up? There's a popular park in my area with several pickleball courts, and it's usually really busy. I'd never played there before, but some friends and I decided to go, so I booked one of the courts for a couple of hours about a week in advance. The booking system was open and showed availability, so I didn't think much of it, even though I was a bit surprised more slots weren't taken. When we arrived, everything seemed normal. The group on our court finished right when our time started, and we began playing. No issues at first. About an hour in, some other friends stopped by, so we paused briefly to chat. While we were off to the side, another group walked onto the court and acted like it was their turn. I told them we had the court reserved for another hour. Most of them left without saying anything, but one person seemed annoyed and questioned why I would reserve a court on a busy weekend morning. When I said I'd booked it ahead of time, he called it an inconsiderate move and walked off. Later, another person approached and asked if we had a reservation in a pretty frustrated tone. When I confirmed, he seemed surprised that reservations were even allowed during peak times and went to double check on his phone. Afterward, we found out that there's an informal system most regulars follow. Instead of reserving, people typically wait in line and rotate onto courts when games finish. It's kind of an honor system, and apparently most people stick to it. From my perspective, I use the official booking system that's available to everyone. I didn't skip a line intentionally, I just plan ahead using the tools provided. At the same time, it seems like there's an unspoken local etiquette that I wasn't aware of, and breaking it upsets some people. Now I'm wondering if I should have known better or if it's reasonable to rely on the reservation system, even if most people don't use it. Was I in the wrong for booking the court? Am I wrong for not wanting to travel with my partner because of her eating habits? I'm a 37-year-old man and have been with my partner 35 for a while now. Overall, things are good between us, but there's one issue that keeps coming up and is starting to affect bigger parts of my life, her extremely limited diet. She doesn't eat vegetables at all, and eating in general can be a challenge for her. For example, if she orders something like a burger, it has to be completely plain, just the meat and cheese. She won't pick off toppings like lettuce or tomato, they simply can't be there in the first place. When it comes to other foods, she sticks to very specific versions, like only eating tacos from certain fast food places instead of more traditional ones. Because of this, going out to eat together can be difficult. I've noticed that I often end up choosing restaurants based on whether there's something she'll eat rather than what we both might enjoy. Over time, this has gotten frustrating for me, especially because trying new food and exploring different cuisines is something I really value. We've tried to compromise a bit. Right now, I go out to eat by myself about once a month so I can enjoy whatever I want without worrying about whether she'll be able to eat anything there. It helps a little, but it doesn't fully solve the issue. Recently, I've had opportunities to travel more, and that's where this concern is really coming to a head. For me, traveling is heavily tied to experiencing new food and cultures. But when I imagine traveling with her, I worry that every meal will turn into a stressful situation, trying to find something she can eat, limiting where we go, or dealing with tension if there aren't familiar options available. At this point, I'm honestly considering traveling on my own instead of bringing her along. I feel guilty about it because I don't want to exclude her, but I also feel like I'd be constantly compromising something that's important to me. I don't think she's doing this on purpose, and I know everyone has their own preferences and comfort zones. But it's getting to a point where I feel restricted and frustrated. Am I being unreasonable for wanting to travel without her because of this? Was I wrong for refusing to remove my engagement ring for someone else's wedding? My partner and I are supposed to attend the wedding of two of his longtime friends next month. We've all known each other for a few years, and while I'm not as close to them as he is, we've spent enough time together to be friendly. They got engaged about a year and a half ago, and I got engaged a few months ago. My ring has a pale blue stone that can look darker in photos, which ended up becoming the issue. We saw them in person for the first time since my engagement recently, and they asked to see the ring. The bride-to-be pointed out that the stone looked lighter in real life than it did in pictures, and that's when the conversation took a turn. She reminded us that the bridal party would be wearing a very soft blue shade and mentioned that they had asked guests not to wear that colour. At first, it sounded like a light joke about my ring technically matching the colour theme. But then it became clear they were serious. She told me directly that I wouldn't be able to wear my engagement ring at the wedding because it was too similar to the bridal party's colour. She even said they had already asked someone else not to wear jewellery with similar coloured stones. My partner and I were both caught off guard. I explained that I wasn't planning to wear anything blue clothing-wise anyway, but that asking me to remove my engagement ring felt like a lot. It's something I wear all the time and rarely take off. They doubled down and said that wearing it would cause drama and might look like I was trying to draw attention, which honestly surprised me. I made it clear that I had no intention of taking attention away from them and didn't think a small piece of jewellery would overshadow a wedding ceremony. At one point, the conversation even escalated to them suggesting that our engagement timing somehow took attention away from their wedding, which felt unfair given the circumstances. We ended the conversation without agreeing, and now it feels like there's a real chance we might not be welcome at the wedding over this. I understand wanting a certain aesthetic for a wedding, but being asked not to wear my engagement ring feels extreme. At the same time, I know this situation could affect my partner's long-standing friendship. I'm stuck wondering if I'm being unreasonable for refusing to take it off, or if this request has gone too far. Am I wrong for not leaving work when my spouse ran out of gas? I'm a 42-year-old man, married to my wife 39 for over a decade, and we have 2 kids in elementary school. I work full-time, while she works part-time and is also finishing a degree online. She deals with anxiety and attention-related challenges, which can sometimes make day-to-day situations more overwhelming for her. Last week, on a day she wasn't scheduled to work, she decided to visit a relative who lives about 45 minutes away. I didn't know she had gone there, so I was surprised when she called me around midday, clearly upset. It took a bit to understand what was going on, but she eventually explained that she had run out of gas somewhere unfamiliar and didn't know what to do. I was at work at the time with meetings lined up that I couldn't miss. I asked what she needed from me, and she said she wanted me to come get her. I explained that I couldn't leave, but I tried to help her think through other options. I suggested calling the relative she had just visited, roadside assistance, a rideshare, or even another friend. She felt overwhelmed by all of that and kept insisting I come help her directly. I stayed calm and told her I understood she was stressed, but I genuinely couldn't leave work at that moment. I encouraged her again to try one of the alternatives, but she got frustrated and ended the call. After that, I tried reaching her again, but she didn't answer calls or texts. Meanwhile, I started worrying because she's usually the one who picks up our kids from school, and I didn't know if she was okay or if I needed to step in. I contacted the school just to make sure I'd be notified if needed, and later found out she did make it there. When I got home, she wouldn't speak to me and stayed distant all weekend. I apologized several times for not being able to leave work, but she didn't engage. Eventually, she told me she feels like she can't rely on me anymore. Now I'm wondering if I handled this bully. I didn't ignore her, I tried to offer solutions, but I also didn't drop everything to go help her. Was I wrong for not leaving work in that situation? Was I wrong for telling my sister her situation is her own fault? I'm a 29-year-old woman, and my older sister 31, and I have never had the easiest relationship. I care about her, but I keep some distance because of her patterns in relationships. She's cheated in every serious relationship she's been in, and she tends to act in ways that revolve entirely around her own wants and needs. Her husband, 30, on the other hand, is someone I've known since school. He's a genuinely kind person, the type who goes out of his way to help others. They were together for years and married for a while before everything recently fell apart. They separated after my sister had an affair with his longtime best friend. It understandably hit him very hard, though he's been trying to stay composed for the sake of their child and to keep things civil. I stayed out of the situation as much as I could. I checked in with both of them briefly, but I didn't want to get involved in the fallout. Recently, my sister came to visit me, something she's never done before, even though I've lived a few hours away for years. During the visit, she spent a long time venting about her current situation. She said the man she left her husband for isn't treating her well, isn't contributing at home, and hasn't changed despite how things started. She also said she regrets leaving her husband and had even told him so, but he turned her down. I tried to steer the conversation away because I really didn't want to get pulled into it, but she kept going for quite a while. Eventually, I got frustrated and told her that she should have thought about all of this before starting a relationship with someone else while still married, that her current situation didn't just happen out of nowhere. She left shortly after that. My partner thinks I was just being honest, but my mom feels like I was too harsh, especially since my sister seems to regret what she did. Now I'm wondering if I crossed a line by saying it so bluntly, even if there's truth to it. Was I wrong for responding that way? Am I wrong for refusing to financially support my parents' luxury retirement plan? I'm a 35-year-old man working in healthcare, and I'm an only child. My parents are both in their late 60s and dealing with serious health issues. My mother has a slow-progressing illness, and my father is in the early stages of cognitive decline. Right now, they're still living independently with some help, but they've started planning for the next phase of their lives. They've become very focused on moving into a high-end senior residence in one of the most upscale neighborhoods in our city. The place costs roughly $10,000 a month for a one-bedroom unit, and that only covers basic living, meals, activities, and light housekeeping. Any additional care would cost significantly more. Financially, they have a steady monthly income that covers their current lifestyle and some savings set aside, but realistically, they wouldn't be able to sustain living in a place like this long-term, especially once their care needs increase. The expectation, although not directly stated, is that I would step in and help cover the costs when their money runs out. While I could technically afford to contribute, it would mean taking on a long-term and potentially increasing financial responsibility that could impact my own future plans, including where I live, my career flexibility, and starting a family. I've suggested other senior living options that are still comfortable and well-rated but more financially sustainable. However, those have been dismissed as not good enough. My mother, in particular, tends to focus on what she doesn't like about options, even when they are objectively good. From my perspective, This feels like choosing a lifestyle that exceeds what they can reasonably afford, with the assumption that I'll make up the difference later. I'm not trying to abandon them. I want them to be safe, comfortable, and well cared for. I just don't think it's fair for me to be responsible for funding a luxury arrangement long term, especially when there are solid alternatives. At the same time, I feel guilty. They are going through difficult health challenges, and I'm in a position where I could help. Part of me wonders if I should just want them to have the easiest and nicest setup possible. But another part of me feels like it's reasonable to expect them to choose something sustainable on their own resources, rather than relying on me for an open-ended commitment. Am I wrong for setting that boundary? Was I wrong for not reacting happily when we found out we're becoming an aunt and uncle? My wife and I are both in our late 30s. For years, we hoped to have children, but that changed after she went through a serious illness a few years ago. She's doing much better now, thankfully, but the treatments have made it very unlikely that we'll ever be able to have kids. It's something we've both had to come to terms with, even if it still hurts. Her younger brother and his partner have been together for a while, and recently they invited us over a couple of times for family meals. Unfortunately, both times we had to cancel last minute because my wife wasn't well. She still has periods where her health dips suddenly. Instead of understanding, some of the family seemed frustrated, and her brother even questioned whether she was actually sick, which didn't sit well with me. We eventually made it to a dinner with everyone. Toward the end of the night, they handed us a gift and said they wanted to record our reaction. Inside was a positive pregnancy test. My wife immediately broke down crying. She said it was out of happiness and hugged them, but I could tell there was a lot more going on beneath the surface. For me, it was complicated too. I was genuinely happy for them, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore the sadness and what this moment represented for us. Then her brother made a comment about how now we understood why he had been upset about us missing the LA gatherings. That didn't sit right with me. I responded that they could have just told us the news without building it up like that, especially given everything we've been through. The atmosphere got tense very quickly. People didn't seem to know how to react, and my wife started feeling unwell again, so we left shortly after. I know I probably came across as harsh, and part of me feels like I should apologize. At the same time, I am struggling with the fact that no one seemed to consider how emotionally difficult that kind of reveal might be for us, especially for my wife. I don't want to take away from their happiness, but I also feel like our situation was overlooked entirely. Was I wrong for reacting the way I did? Was I wrong for expecting my girlfriend to take on more chores if I handled the entire kitchen? When my girlfriend and I first got together, we were on the same page about responsibilities. She made it clear she didn't want to feel like she was taking care of me, and I agreed completely. I had already been living independently, cooking, cleaning, and managing everything on my own, so that wasn't an issue. After we moved in together, we had some friction about chores and decided to divide them more clearly. She said she really dislikes anything to do with the kitchen, cooking, washing dishes, cleaning up, so I agreed to take full responsibility for the entire area. That means I cook all our meals, do all the dishes, and clean the kitchen every day. In exchange, the plan was to split everything else. Laundry, cleaning the bathrooms, general tidying, grocery runs, those would all be shared between us. The problem is that this doesn't feel balanced to me. The kitchen work is a daily responsibility, while most of the other tasks are weekly or less frequent. From my perspective, taking full ownership of something that has to be done every single day seems like a bigger load than splitting tasks that only come up occasionally. Because of that, I suggested that it might make more sense for her to take on more of the remaining chores to even things out. For example, handling the laundry or bathrooms herself, since I'm already covering all kitchen duties for both of us. She didn't agree with that at all. Her view is that we already compromised by splitting the rest, even though she dislikes some of those tasks. She also pushed back when I asked for help with things like laundry, saying she doesn't want to feel like she's taking care of me. From my side, it feels inconsistent. I'm doing a major portion of the shared workload for both of us every day, but when I ask for a similar level of support elsewhere, it's framed as me expecting to be taken care of. I don't mind contributing more if it's genuinely fair, but right now it feels uneven, and it's causing frustration on both sides. Was I wrong for expecting a different balance given the way we divided things? Would I be wrong for telling my client I used to date her husband? I'm a 27-year-old stylist, and one of my regular clients around my age has been coming to me for several months now. She's genuinely kind, easy to talk to, and we built a comfortable client relationship. When she first started coming in, she mentioned that her daughter has the exact same uncommon name as me, which we both thought was a funny coincidence. At the time, it didn't mean much beyond that. Over the next few appointments, she shared bits about her life, including her husband. She mentioned how they met years ago through work and eventually got married. At one point, she told me where he went to school, and it happened to be the same university I attended before leaving LA. That caught my attention a little, but I brushed it off as coincidence. Recently, during an appointment, she showed me photos from a trip they took together, and that's when everything clicked. I immediately recognized her husband as someone I had been in a serious relationship with years ago. We had dated for a long time and were even planning to move in together at one point. Things didn't end well between us, and we haven't been in contact since. Seeing him again, even just in photos, brought back some uncomfortable feelings, especially given how things ended. Now I feel stuck. On one hand, I don't want to create unnecessary drama or come across as someone trying to stir up the past. I also don't have any evidence that anything inappropriate is happening in their relationship now. On the other hand, it feels strange to keep something like this to myself while continuing to see her regularly, especially since she's been open and kind with me. Part of me thinks I would want to know if I were in her position. But another part of me worries that bringing it up would only make things awkward or even hurt her for no real reason. I haven't said anything and have continued acting professionally, but the situation feels uncomfortable, and I'm unsure if staying quiet is the right thing to do. Would it be wrong for me to tell her about the past, or is there something better left unsaid? Am I wrong for not wanting to turn our family vacation into a group trip? My partner and I, early 30s, have a 4-year-old daughter. We've been pretty intentional about how we raise her, limiting screen time, encouraging outdoor activities, reading, and building hobbies. It's taken a lot of effort, but she's gotten to the point where she can handle hikes and even camping trips. Of course she still has moments, she's a kid, but overall she does really well. This summer, we planned an international trip focused on outdoor activities. It's something we've put a lot of thought, time, and money into, and we're really excited about it. I mentioned the trip to a friend of mine who has a 6-year-old. She immediately got excited and started suggesting that her family should join us. I told her we were planning this as just a family trip and already had most things booked, so it wouldn't work. She kept pushing, first suggesting we change our accommodations to go together, then saying her family could just book separately and join in. The issue is, I really don't want this to turn into a shared vacation. From experience, a child isn't used to the kind of activities we've planned, like long hikes or spending extended time outdoors. In the past, when we've done things together, plans often shift to accommodate a child's needs if he's struggling or bored, which I completely understand in a casual, local setting, but this is a big, carefully planned trip for us. I also know that if we overlap, there will likely be pressure, spoken or unspoken, to just plan to spend time together, even if I've said otherwise. I want this trip to stay focused on what we planned for our own family. I tried to explain that the activities might not be enjoyable for her child, but she brushed it off and said they'd figure it out or we could adjust as needed. That's when I made it clear that we would not be changing anything and that while she's free to travel wherever she wants, we wouldn't be coordinating plans or meeting up unless it happened to align exactly with what we were already doing. She's now upset and says they're missing out on creating shared memories and that trips like this are special when families do them together. Now I'm wondering if I was too firm or if I should have handled it differently. Was I wrong for setting that boundary? Was I wrong for picking up my stepdaughter when she got her first period, even though her mom told me not to? I'm a 25-year-old woman, currently 6 months pregnant. My husband, 29, has a 10-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. I love her deeply and care about her like she's my own, but I'm careful not to overstep, especially when it comes to discipline or major parenting decisions. Recently, something happened that has me questioning whether I crossed a line. While at school, my stepdaughter called my husband complaining of severe stomach pain. She later realized she was bleeding, and he quickly understood that she had started her first period. He couldn't leave work, and her mom initially wasn't answering calls. I was at home, and I enlisted as an approved pickup person at her school. I offered to go get her so she wouldn't have to sit there uncomfortable. Around that time, her mom finally called back, and the conversation became tense. She said this was something she wanted to handle herself and described it as a special moment between her and her daughter. I understood that perspective, but the immediate issue was that her daughter was in pain and stuck at school without proper support. Her mom insisted that she would handle it later and said my stepdaughter could just manage in the meantime. Meanwhile, my stepdaughter called me directly, crying and asking for help because she felt so unwell and wanted to go home. My husband told me to go ahead and pick her up, so I did. I signed her out, got her some pain relief and a few essentials, and brought her home to rest. After that, she seemed much more comfortable. Several hours later, her mom called very upset. She said I had overstepped and taken away a meaningful moment she wanted to share with her daughter. She also felt I had ignored boundaries and accused me of trying to take on a role that wasn't mine. I explained that my only goal was to help her daughter in that moment, not replace her or take anything away from her as a parent. But she made it clear she saw it differently. My husband supports what I did and believes it was the right call given the situation. Still, I can't shake the feeling that maybe I should have handled it differently. Was I wrong for stepping in to help?